In the third part of Gregory Ulmer's Miami Virtue, we enter the world of archetypal imagery and metaphysical meaning. To understand mi a mi, one must know the inclusions and exclusions of culture, the miat, the other. Reading the mood of spaces is much like reading a tarot spread of cards. By allowing oneself to observe the space through hundreds, even thousands of images, we can find the repetitive patterns in images. These recognized patterns rise from the unconscious with meaning, just like cards bring hidden influences to light. Epiphany happens when some element of the photo repeats, capturing and inspiring us. These moments of insight usually involve some unforeseen personal connection to the image element which penetrates our unconscious, the punctum. For Miami Virtue, the punctum is the mattress. The mattress crosses through the levels of allegory, transforming from signifier to synthome, Haitian history, familial memory, a quilting point, a boundary of us and them, the barrier of the other. In belief, objects are understood by stereotypes, cliches, and opinional archetypes. In literary science, objects are understood by attributes and properties. In electricity, object is experienced through mood and understood only through relationships. This returns us to the uncomfortable realm of the uncanny. Electricity orbits what Ulmer calls traumatic kernels or voids. It is the categorical thing. It is the sublime, like our shadow selves, which reside in the unconscious. The more powerful influences on space are what goes unseen. For Ulmer, the Haitians are nemesis. They speak the parable where the personal blends with the public and the space with the tragedy. The accidents which trouble us as we view the electratic space are not coincidence but convergence. In order to understand the convergences of meaning revealed by the electratic accident, we must understand the archetypal forces of culture in which the space exists. For Miami, this would be the American identity, amongst others. The cowboy archetype is the icon of the American frontier myth, long held as the representative of American values. The cowboy is the patriarchal, virile epitome of masculinity in our culture since the late 19th century. However, the rise of the modern city, the crisis of industrialization, brings the WASP male class structure into jeopardy. The femme fatale archetype comes into direct conflict with the icon of the frontier myth. Modernity has brought the feminine cultural identity back into consciousness, bringing with her decadence, symbolism, art, and Orientalism. Our media and perceptions shift from static absolute to motion, gestural, and layered realities. The detective hero becomes the new archetype, teaching us new ways of seeing. Holmes, Perrault, and especially the characters of Chandler bring a sentimental machoism to the male archetype which can meet the femme fatale, unleashing potentials in the new media, leading us to forensic aesthetic. Yet this is a movement away from the static into the reality of perceptual motion. The other rises into consciousness again, bringing the black experience to American cultural identity. Jazz, through music, motion, and emotion, speaks the dialectic which are inaccessible through literacy. Through jazz, the femme fatale, cowboy, and detective meet, mingle, and evolve. The jam session becomes an entertainment and a forum through which boundaries can be pushed and limits of mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual endurance are tested. In today's electricity, we can jam across disciplines and modalities. We don't have to be the musician in order to participate. It is a truly democratic process. Released from the rules of literacy, we enter the vortex of possibilities. Synesthetic, syncretic, textural and pictorial, oral, and all modes become foundations for reasoning in electricity. Ulmer claims this brings us to the point of writing with God's own hand, with fingers of light. I Ching, the Book of Changes, is a form of divination particularly suited for use in electricity, where Western metaphysics is hierarchical and vertical. Even in situations where dominating strategy doesn't work, Eastern metaphysics move through linking webs of perception horizontally. This path of progression broadens instead of contracts possibilities. The access to knowledge is dependent upon the interface to it. Ulmer finds it essential that we utilize metaphor interface, which opens us to possibilities without imposing authority, correctness, or purity into the mix. Electricity demands an interface of gradual development, which shifts and grows with us and interaction. The new communication comes from the image-text construction of ideograms, which are based upon common knowledge or perceptions to make new ways of defining and perceiving something. It changes the boundaries to the sacred space of invention and brings the other within the remix. Ideas and knowledge, data, rushes through our choral space. Our very boundaries are fluctuating. We must become creatures of hospitality. We must let the other in and share our meal, sleep under our roof, and exchange stories. From this, values cross borders and understanding evolves. As we move away from the restriction of problem solving and learn to move through the crisis, to dance with the vortex, and to recommend the impossible, we come to the core of electricity. We open ourselves again to virtue and to connect to ourselves and the spaces we occupy in ways we had forgotten. We uncover the hidden. I generated none of the images used in this presentation. All images were used according to fair use laws and in accordance with Clemson University's rules on plagiarism.